This is Andrew Sadler speaking to Derrick Stubbs on Wednesday the 30th of September 2015 for the International Bomber Command Digital Archive. So, yes, Derrick.
What happened?
Tell me how you got into the art.
I had two older brothers who were both called up for the army, and at 17 years of age I was very jealous of them and rather silly, but I decided I'd like to get into the forces. So I joined the Royal Fusilier Cadets, and I did training with them from the age of 14. After 2 years I decided I really wanted to go into the army properly. So I went to Croydon to the recruitment centre and lined up to join, and the guy said, "I'm sorry, but you'll have to come back when you're 18. Well, I wouldn't be beaten, so as I left the Army Recruitment Centre, I walked across the road and the Royal Air Force were recruiting. So I went into their recruitment centre and told a lie and told them I was 18. And they didn't check up at all. I just signed, and therefore, much to my parents' annoyance, a few weeks later I got my calling up papers to go to Cat Force up north to the recruitment. So that's how it all began.
Tell me, tell me about your parents. Was your father in the First War?
No, my father was in Canada during the First War. He was asked to go out there and do some armament work. No, but he wasn't in the forces at all.
Okay, so you were in the RAF at the age of 17?
Yeah, absolutely. By telling lies, they thought I was 18. So I was young and stupid.
So what about your training?
So after 6 months at recruitment, they posted me to Egypt via the South African route, during which we were attacked by the Germans, U-boats, and we had to call in at Durban for 6 weeks while we were hiding away, and then we came out again and continued our journey to Egypt. Then I got off the boat at Egypt in the Suez Canal, and they posted me to a centre for the RAF just outside El Alamein. So I stayed there and did some training to become an air gunner.
And what year was this?
This was 1942, 41, 42, yeah, 1941. And so I did some training at a centre to become an air gunner. And then they posted me to a squadron of Spitfires and Hurricanes, 73 Squadron, which was a Spitfire and Hurricane squadron. And I was there as an armourer's assistant for a while. Then I passed the course and became a fully trained armourer. So they used to go on dogfights and come back, and I'd rearm the various planes. So we went all the way at the 8th Army from El Alamein right up to Tunis, North Africa, step by step by step by step, stopping at various airports on the way. And then after being at Tunis for a while, they decided they wanted to invade Italy. So we landed, our squadron landed at Foggia in Italy, and from there we went to an airport called Foggia, which is in the middle of Italy, and we landed there. So I was there when they were doing raids over Yugoslavia, not called Yugoslavia anymore, but various raids. So after a while, they were looking for recruitments for air gunners, so I left 73 Squadron and joined 40 Squadron as a rear gunner on Wellington bombers. And so I stayed at 40 Squadron in Italy for a period of time, during which I did 22 operations over Germany, Italy, Northern Italy, Yugoslavia, that area. So I was overseas for 4 years. 4 years for a single man and 3 years for a married man was the sentence you got. Sentence is the wrong word, isn't it? But that was the word, the time you had to do 4 years. So after 4 years I came back to England for a year, and then of course I was demobbed.
As I understand that the rear gunner was the most dangerous place to be.
It was, yes, it wasn't. It had its moments. Yes, it was. I was very lucky to survive, but then I didn't go over Germany as often as some of the other planes did. So we were train busting in Yugoslavia. We used to dive low and then strafe the trains as they were bringing the Germans in. The German troops were coming in. We used to strafe the trains. So that was most of the jobs were there. Obviously, you used to come back, and there was bits of shrapnel here, bits of shrapnel there. It was amazing, really. It was only the Wellington bomber was fabric covered, so shrapnel used to go straight through, but it was a bit drafty.
I mean, what sort of losses did your squadron sustain?
Quite, I would say, whilst I was there must have been, you just go by the sergeant's mess, I would say there were sometimes as much as 40 over a period of 8 weeks. 6 weeks, yeah, probably about 40. Used to go into the sergeant's mess at night and say, "Where's so-and-so?" And we said, "Oh, won't be back." That was a bit heart-rending, because we were such close buddies. The comradeship was amazing. We were such close buddies, you know, it was really like a family. It was, tears coming to my eyes when I think what happened.
When you said you did about 20 different sorties.
Yeah.
And how far apart were they?
Sometime about a week at a time. You just got back and waited for the call to come again. We're going to do another raid.
But you were there 4 years.
Yeah.
So
I was in the Air Force for a whole 4 years.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
Yeah, but actually flying was for about 18 months. Yeah.
Right. So perhaps it wasn't quite as dangerous as some of the British bombers that were going.
It wasn't like the 1,000 bomber raids that used to have over Germany.
No.
We didn't have the amount of casualties they had, because train busting was one-way traffic, although they did fire at us, of course, because they had machines on some of the trucks, so that's why we sometimes got hit. Fortunately, we survived that. So.
Can you describe what the preparation was when you went out on a mission?
On a mission, all the air crew, Bill Murphy was the pilot, and he was an absolute gem. He would give me a call, he'd say, "Oh, Stubbs," because they always never called you by your Christian name. Oh, Stubbs, we're taking off tomorrow. So whose side are you going to be on this time? He was a hell of a joker. So I said, well, if you behave yourself, I'll be on your side. So he said, we're taking off tomorrow. We've got to be ready out of the Liberty truck will take us out to the plane. We're going to leave at 6:20. So make sure you're all ready, and have you checked your guns the night before to make sure they're clean and everything spotless? Absolutely. So he gave us the instructions, and then the following morning one of the helpers woke us up and said, hey, you're off today. One of the actual airmen that used to wake us up. And
how many of you were on the crew?
there were 7 altogether, yeah. So there was a front gunner, rear gunner. In fact, there's a picture outside of the Wellington bomber that I was in.
Can you, what sort of living conditions did you have when you were there?
Not too bad in Italy. It wasn't too bad. On the desert campaign at El Alamein up to far Tunis, food was a bit short. So we lived really on corned beef, and dry biscuits. So yeah, and of course the Germans, when we got to a place where we were going to have an oasis to drink, they'd put poison in the water, so we never had any water. Had to go about 100 miles to get some water in the Bowser to come back. But they flooded the blooming oasis with blooming poison. So, dirty trick.
Well, so when you where did you sleep? Did you?
We were all under canvas. Yeah. Four in the tent.
And was that
4 in the tent?
That must have been quite hot.
Hot and cold and wet. Yes, it wasn't very comfortable. No.
And tell me about the relationship between the officers and the others. You were a sergeant, I believe.
I was a sergeant. Yeah. So, there was a good comradeship amongst us all, but when we were in Foggia, there was an American squadron on the other side of the airfield. What a difference they had with the names of the most senior officers you called Joe or Bill or so, where you had to say Mr. Murphy. But they were so casual with their sort of friendship from the senior officer to the lowest rank. Much more casual. But, it was nice when we were invited over to the Americans because they were better fed than us. Yeah.
So your captain, what rank was he?
Bill Murphy was a flight lieutenant.
He was a flight lieutenant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was an officer.
He was an officer. Yeah. Yeah. So, came from York. They've all passed away.
Did you? So I mean, did the officers? Did they live separately to the rank?
Oh yes, very much so. And food was a bit better than ours.
Was it?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
It sounds extraordinary.
Yeah.
And when you had, I mean, when you were billeted, you'd obviously got a lot of time there when you weren't actually flying.
Yeah.
And what did you do then?
Well, I used to walk out into the country, and there was boxing, there was physical exercise and everything. In fact, I went in for one boxing match. I remember there was an Irishman called Bunty Doran in the army, and it was the RAF versus the the army in a boxing match. So the boys were saying, Derrick, you ought to go for this, you know, they need a middleweight. So I said, oh, well, I'll have a go at it. Yes, okay. So I did training for about a week or so. The boxing match came out, and this Bunty Doran came out, an Irish guy, and as we were shaping up, I just hit him a couple of times. I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And with that, he took a whack. I was out with 10 seconds, didn't know anymore. And on the way back, on the Liberty truck, the guy said, oh, that was bad luck, wait till next time. I said, there's not going to be a next time.
So when you, can you describe what it was like actually being in the aircraft when you were out on a mission?
I would try my best. First of all, your stomach used to turn over as you took off. And then you had perhaps 3/4 an hour or an hour you could sit there and relax and be ready. And then over the target, you never knew from 1 minute to another. So it was really nervous all the time, eyes like this everywhere in case they were fighter planes following or something, which happened on a couple of occasions. A fighter plane came and I strafed it, you know, and it dived away. Whether I got it or not, I don't know, but that was a bit spine chilling when you had to sit there ready for anything can happen. You never knew from 1 minute to another. I'm telling you more than I've ever told anybody else.
How did you, how did you cope with that emotionally or psychologically?
As soon as you got back into the billet, all your shivering and it just disappeared. You know, and the help with all the other guys all laughing and joking, and it disappeared. And then he would announce that number 4 squadron was going to take off at 0700 hours the following day. You think, oh, well, here we go again. So it's amazing how quickly you recovered. One, because I was young and stupid, but amazing how you recovered and went back quite calmly when the lorry came to take us round to the various planes to climb through. You think, oh, here we go again.
So when you left Egypt, you came back to Britain. That was before the end of the war.
So I did the whole tour. They sent me back to Sicily after I'd done quite a few operations, because it was affecting me physically. You know, it was knocking me to pieces. So they sent me back to Catania to a rest and lead camp. And so I was there for quite a while recovering, because I was getting a bit shaky. And then they sent me back to Tobruk for all reasons, which was right in the blooming desert. They sent me back there, ready to join a Lancaster squadron. But it didn't happen, because they posted me back to Cairo, because the war was finishing. So I finished up back at Cairo, driving a lorry, of all things, after doing all that aircrew stuff. I had a 3-ton lorry. They used to drive from the actual city to the airport, So I was a DMT, driver motor transport, while I was waiting to get back to England. And then, of course, we got the boat from Egypt by an Italian crew. The actual boat was packed with soldiers, sailors, absolutely packed with troops. it ran into an island off Sardinia. So we were shipwrecked. The boat began to sink. So the HMS Ark Royal came and rescued us. So we all had to get off the boat, go on a little boat out to the Ark Royal, and then climb on the Ark Royal, and we finished back in Egypt again.
How did you come to be on a boat with an Italian crew? Weren't they the enemies?
Oh, no, the war had finished. And the Italians, then became our friends. The Italians, I met a lot of Italians. Their heart wasn't in the war from day one. They really, you could tell by the defeats that they were so easily beaten. Their heart wasn't in it. Mussolini forced them into it, of course. But yes, it was Italian crew. But so that was. I thought, oh God, I shall never get home. It was called the Medlock route. So what we did, you leave Egypt, you go to southern France, and then you get a train from southern France right across France, and then a boat would pick us up and take us across the channel. Oh. So that was quite an end. And after 4 years, I thought, I'll never get back.
So how long were you out of England altogether?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, over 3 years, yeah.
So really, pretty well most of your time?
Really, nearly all the time was overseas, yeah. So.
And when were you actually demobbed? Was it after you came back to England?
Yeah, after we got back, I was posted to Reading, and in the MT section, motor transport section, and just waiting to get demobbed, which took about 6 months before my number came up. So I was stationed at Reading and waiting to get demobbed, yeah.
And how did you acclimatise back to civilian life?
Not too bad, because just before the war, I worked at the Stock Exchange as a clerk at the Stock Exchange. That's how I became a cadet for the Royal Fusiliers, because they had a recruitment centre there. I went back to the Stock Exchange and adapted to becoming a clerk again in an office. So adapted fairly easily, yeah.
And did they keep your old job for you?
Well, I was only the office boy, yeah. So the job was open, yeah, I could go back. I didn't stay there long. I went from one stockbrokers to another stockbrokers for more money, yeah. I heard of another job going at a bigger stockbrokers who were paying you more money, and I left and joined another one. So I stayed at the Stock Exchange for quite a few years, and then I heard that American banks were opening in London. So I got a job with the Chase National Bank, which was then one of the largest banks in the world. So I worked for Chase for quite a few years, picked up a lot of experience, because I left school at 14. I didn't have a very high education, but I did pick up things quite good. And I'd been at the Chase for about 10 years, and another American bank came into London, Citibank. And one day I had a telephone call. This is, forgotten his name now, so-and-so of Citibank. Derrick, would you like to join me for lunch one day? So I said, well, yes, I could do. So I went and joined him for lunch. He said, how long have you been with Chase? And I told him. So he said, well, what a job. I said, I do international financial loans for companies, running into millions sometimes. So he said, would you be interested in joining us? I said, oh, I don't know. He said, what's your salary? So I told him my salary. He was, suppose I doubled your salary. and said, "Do you get a company car?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Well, you get a company car. Would you be interested?" When do I start? And when I went back to the bank, the American bank, what was his name? But he was a geezer, he was in Dallas. But I went in there and I said, why can't I remember his name? Oh, Mr. Fowler. Oh, Mr. Fowler. Oh, Dean, was good. Being American, you always use the first name. Oh, Dean, I tell you that I've decided I'm going to leave. Oh, Jesus Christ, how much do you want? I said, oh, Dean, I wouldn't do that because I'd given the Chiefs my word that I would join them, you know. So he said, okay, well, tell the messenger, the head messenger, to, when you go out the door, to lock the door so you can't come back. Silly bastard. So that was Sunday that I went right up, I became a vice president.
Oh, God.
It's amazing, with a 14-year-old education.
Excellent. Did you keep in touch with your comrades from the RAF?
For a long time, but they've all died. Not one left.
No.
But Bill Murphy invited me up to York, and that was touching, really. Almost brings tears to your eyes. So and he had a big house. He was a moneyed man, and he said, "Okay," he said, "We'll come up for the weekend to York." So I went up there, and one night there was a knock at the door. And he said, answer the door, Derrick, can you? Because I'm busy. So I answered the door, and there was a little jock. He was the front gunner, and there was a little jock there. What are you doing here, you arsehole? So he was the only one left. So the front gunner, and I was the rear gunner, and the pilot was there. So
how long ago was that?
Oh, long time ago. Oh, years ago. It was soon after we came back. Yeah. All gone.
And were the rest of the crew, were they all British or were they Canadians?
Yeah, all British.
They were all British.
Yeah, all British. Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't be now though, would it? In fact, you know, on 73 Squadron, the Spitfire and Harry Squadron, it was all white. There were no black people at all.
What sort of social life did you have when you were in the...
Oh, very good. Yeah. I used to sing a song, "Nobody Loves a Fairy When She's 40. When we were in the mess, they'd say, "Come on, Derrick, give us a song." So I should sing, "Nobody loves a fairy when she's 40. Nobody loves a fairy when she's old. She may have magic power, but that is not enough. They like their bit of magic from a younger bit of stuff." And they used to make me sing that when I'd had a few drinks. And there are other guys that get up and said, used to be a real comradeship. It was amazing.
But you couldn't have had any girlfriends out there?
No, not one.
No.
No, not one.
When you went overseas, did you get any choice about where you went, or did they just decide?
Oh, they just told you where you had no choice there. No, you just finished up where they said.
So you just did as you're told?
Yeah.
And why do you think there was any particular reason why they sent you overseas rather than stay in the UK?
I can't think of a reason. It's just your luck. I suppose 73 Squadron decided they wanted to go to Alamein, and they started recruiting, and so the Air Force head office, him, and that's it. Yeah. Just how it happened.
And was all your work in Halifax's?
the Wellingtons to begin with, the twin-engine Wellingtons.
Yes.
And then the not Wellingtons. I've forgotten the name of the other plane now.
Lancasters.
No, Lancasters were too big. It's out there. No. The Wellingtons was a twin-engine bomber.
Yes.
That which is out there. I've gone to pieces. I can't think what it was now. But it was a Wellington to begin with, yeah. Oh, because on the desert campaign I was just an armourer on the Spitfires and Hurricanes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only when we got to Italy they asked for volunteers to become air gunners. That's when I joined the Wellington Bomber Squadron. Yeah.
And
amazing.
And why did you volunteer for that?
Because I'm stupid, as my dad used to say.
I mean, if you were arming the planes on the ground, that would sound like a fairly safe occupation.
I know.
But rear gunner was the reverse.
I know. It was a sort of, I don't know. I was a bit bored, and I thought, put my hand up.
So, I mean, was it considered more glamorous to be flying?
I suppose it was. The money was a bit better, but really, that silly age, you didn't think about the danger. You think
Did you get increased rank or it?
Yeah, they made you acting sergeant. It's just a temporary sergeant that while you were flying. But immediately you finish flying, they take the sergeant stripes off, so you become a leading aircraftman again. Yeah. So it was only a temporary
Right.
thing.
So there was no great increase in status.
No, not really. It just you had better quarters to sleep in as a sergeant. There was only like 2 in a tent, whereas usually other ranks was 4 in a tent. So difference. Difficult to say. Where the hell did I put my hand up to become air crew? But there we are, surrounded by thousands of other air crew. You did silly things in those days.
And you were obviously very young. How old were you then?
18 and a half, 19.
Yeah. And presumably you were a year younger than they thought you were.
Oh yeah. But it was quite an experience. 4 years, a long time.
What do you think about the legacy of the Bomber Command? Because the Bomber Command, many people think they weren't given sufficient credit for the work that they did after the war.
I think they were given credit for it. I mean, it's difficult to say, really. Difficult to answer that question, but you had a certain amount of pride to say that you were a rear gunner. I don't know. But it was amazing a time of, you go into the mess at night and there'll be half a dozen missing, and you say, oh, so-and-so, oh, he got it today, so-and-so. Well, I saw him, his plane landed, so would I hear from him again? Maybe, It was, when you got back and talked it over, it became sort of a lump in your throat, because the night before you were laughing and joking with them. So it did hurt.
What?
But amazing blokes, though. They were really amazing blokes. You couldn't believe in the mess the night before we were flying off, how they were laughing and joking and playing all sorts of tricks, climbing up the posts, absolutely daft as anything.
Presumably, it wasn't a good thing to go flying if you got a hangover.
No. But we were drinking vermouth and Italian wine, of course. There wasn't any beer available, but we used to get a bottle of Italian wine from the local people, so we had to knock back Italian wine.
What did you think of Bomber Harris before or during the war?
I had a certain amount of pride for him, yeah.
You thought he was
Yeah.
a very...
Yeah, he was good. He had a rotten job to do. A rotten job. I mean, he was sending people to their deaths, would be. But there was no way of... It had to be done. Had to be done. But it's... I don't think you could criticise him for the way he acted. Had to send so many people to their deaths. Yeah,
And Churchill, what do you think is...
lovely. I love him. My father was with the Ministry of Works in the Strand, and quite high up as a builder. And Churchill used to come round the West End and look at various buildings that had been bombed. And my father had to show him around sometimes. And he said that Churchill was rather blunt in his language and things like that. But he said my dad liked him. Yes, he was a man to people. And troops liked him as well, liked his style.
The convoy you were in, that you were moving into battle, passed one coming back and came upon your brother Stan.
Yes, that's right. Yes, Stan, my older brother, Stan, he'd been called up for the army, been out to Egypt, did his service and came back, and he was on the same. So we exchanged a friendship. It was amazing.
The night before the battle, the big guns blasted all night.
They did. Oh, at Alamein, the night before. And the sound of the bagpipes. The sound of the bagpipes. You had goose pimples, well, top goose pimples. The sound was, then it went quiet, and suddenly the barrage started.
They sounded the bagpipes before the battle.
Yeah, they did. And then the battle began, and the sound of because our squadron was quite behind the lines, you could hear it so clearly. Oh, and the barrage went on and on, bang, 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 all night. And that was the beginning of the turning of the war, I think, the other main battle.
And the Wellington bomber had fabric sides, and when a shell hit it, would make a popping sound.
That's right, it did.
On the ground, they would glue a patch on it.
Yeah, that's all they did. got back and they put a patch on. They were called riggers. The riggers came and they'd put, there's a hole over there. Patch.
Murphy often asked whose side you were on.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
thought you might win the Iron Cross.
He was a sod. He was always teasing me.
And then in the barracks, you would swing on the rafters by your feet, saying, "I'm a bat," until one night you fell off.
Oh, if I got a bit pissed, yes. I used to climb up on the rafters and swing backwards and forwards, yes. Yes. After I'd had a few drinks.
When you went to Catania for
Catania, yeah.
Catania for rest and rehabilitation.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You met Maria, your first love.
Absolutely. Oh, I was wildly... The first girl I'd ever had an affair with. Oh, I was absolutely saturated in love. Oh, she was lovely too.
You told her you would see her the following evening,
Yeah.
however you were given orders to ship out to
Absolutely.
North Africa and couldn't even say goodbye.
No, bastards. It's just a few hours' notice. There's a plane waiting for you to take you back to the desert.
On one mission your navigator died of gunshot wounds.
It was horrible. I had to go down and he used to go down to see what's happened. I went down there, there it was, actually blood everywhere. Horrible. Horrible. Laughing and joking with him the night before.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like a coffee, by the way?